a ref came and told me to calm down, and I totally flopped the second match. I was afraid I was going to hurt them. I was afraid I was going to do something wrong. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be answering some of your questions. I am going to try to be doing this a little bit more consistently. So the answers that I'm going to be kind of bringing up today for the questions I received have to do with beginners just starting jiu-jitsu and possible interest in competing and what that looks like if you're just starting out. So I'll be breaking those down, and then I'll actually do more of these in the upcoming future. So if you have more questions, continue to bring them in. Make sure to comment down below as well. All right, so the question that was asked, or one of the first questions, was if you're just starting off, or this person was just starting off, they were just in the very beginning stages, and they wanted to know what was needed to remember or retain information when you're learning all the different techniques in class. I actually have an old video on this where I go into a lot of depth, but I would say the number one thing first off that you have to remember is it's already going to be really hard. You have to give yourself a little bit of grace because it is a lot of information and a lot of muscle memory that's remembered over time as far as technique and just reps put in. The second thing I would say is there are a lot of people, which I wish I did more of this, I probably need to, which is take notes right after you learn it. If your professor's okay with you actually taking notes, with a notebook and pencil or pen, during that time he's explaining it, that helps as well. Also, I've seen where people will record the move after with the professor and break it down in a 30-second clip so they can rewatch it. Also depends on how you learn, right? Are you a visual person? Do you have to feel it? Do you have to listen to the step-by-steps? Those are going to be up to you. For me, one of the things that helped a lot in the beginning was I drilled and reviewed it a lot of times. So let's say there were 3 techniques or 3 different positions or moves. I would choose one that I felt like was most applicable to how I would move. And then after class, I would go ask somebody that I felt like I could work with, and I would ask them if it would be okay to drill it and review it at least for 5-minute rounds. And I would do it, first my 5 minutes I'd go, then they would go the next round. And that way we would just repeat it. The biggest thing in jiu-jitsu, I think, over time is making the changes very small and not trying to swallow the whole thing at once. The second question I got was, when should you start thinking about competing, or should you even compete just because you start jiu-jitsu? Is that something that you need to do? I think this has so many different answers. You don't necessarily need to compete, but I do think it is really good for mental strength and fortitude and understanding yourself. I think there's so much good that comes out of competing. You don't have to compete constantly, but I think it's really important to give yourself the benefit of the doubt to see what you're capable of in those conditions. And so one thing that I would recommend is give yourself 6 months to learn and understand the game. And then at that point, if you're kind of thinking about the idea, then try to sign up for something after that 6-month period. One thing that I did when I was 19 is I don't know how far along I was. I don't think I was more than 4 months in when I started and competed in like a Naga tournament. I'm not even sure how long. I was still fresh white belt. I don't even think I had any stripes, but I was so eager to just get out there because I'm very competitive. And it was a very good lesson because I just had such extreme tournaments. Like one match, I was dominating. The second match, a ref came and told me to calm down, and I totally flopped the second match. I was afraid I was going to hurt them. I was afraid I was going to do something wrong. And so at that point, my whole thing just flipped. So for you, if you're considering competing, give yourself 6 months, reassess where your game is at, talk to your professor, see if it's a good time and place for you to actually look into signing up, and then go for it. I do recommend at least giving yourself 2 to 3 tournaments throughout your journey, hopefully closer in time to each other. And then if you really don't like it at that point, just enjoy the journey of jiu-jitsu altogether without necessarily needing to compete. And it also depends on your age, because if you're older and you have a lot of injuries and things like that, you might want to be careful with how intense you're going to be going, because jiu-jitsu is great and all, but you want to be able to continue to do stuff off the mat as well, and that's really important. Another question I got was, what is one of the mistakes or the biggest mistakes that white belts make when just starting out? There are a lot of mistakes I think you will find when you're just starting out, but in order to be a good partner and a long-lasting partner, I think one of the biggest things you can take away is learning to try to understand calming the mind and the body and doing things a little bit more technical. It's going to be very easy for larger opponents or people that are used to high intense sports to go pretty crazy. If you are somebody that's also a fight or flight where you tend to go away from something and freak out, that's also going to play a role in your beginning journey of jiu-jitsu. And if there was one thing I could go back and try to fix myself my first year, I was really spazzy, like full on spaz. And it's hard to have people that want to train with you if you can't calm down. And the second thing is just being aware of controlling your body. And it sounds very generic, but when somebody's trying to review something with you, or you guys are practicing and drilling, just being intentional with understanding where you're putting your weight, how hard you're squeezing, things like that. Because you can always add more pressure and strength. Understanding the technique of what you're actually learning, the concepts, is probably going to be your best friend, and more people are going to want to train with you as well. You'll find very quickly that in the first 6 months, if you don't have people that are wanting to review and wanting to drill with you, maybe think twice if you're being a really good training partner or if you're being really difficult. If people are avoiding you, it's for very few reasons. Number one, your gi is disgusting. Number two, you're going insane and you're not learning and reviewing how you should be over time. Or number three, the ego cannot be controlled and you're doing everything you can to not lose. And that's not the point of jiu-jitsu. Of course you want to win, but it's also a learning game over time. It never stops. Not even in black belt level do they stop. There's a continuous learning cycle, and if you get stuck in the belts or not feeling like you're the best, you've already lost, and then it's not as enjoyable. So it's not one, but hopefully you do get a takeaway. Be a good partner. Learn the techniques. Try your best to control your body. That's probably the best way you're going to be able to enjoy the sport and have others enjoy it with you as well. Another question that I got, and this was actually during a time when I was training, was how long does it take before you feel like you're not the worst person when you're starting out? I've gotten this from somebody 2 months in. I've had somebody come back to me about 3 or 4 months in. The journey can depend based on the person, but one thing that I will say is it really depends on how frequent you're reviewing these things and then how often you're actually coming to class. I think the most discouraging thing for people is that they're training twice a week. They're not really reviewing. They're not trying to roll at any point off class time. And then they're expecting to retain what other people would that are showing up 4 and 5 days a week and actually trying to put it into practice. So there's always going to be an ebb and flow in life. When you're in the very beginning stages and you're kind of on the hype train in jiu-jitsu your first few months, understand that being discouraged is normal. But number two, if you're on the hype train and you're excited about jiu-jitsu, ride it, because this is a long journey. Don't wear yourself out, but if you're able to train 3 and 4 days a week and you don't have a ton of other responsibilities, enjoy that time. When I was 19, I was not married. I was not in a serious relationship at the time, and I was in school and working. I was training 5 and 6 days a week. On Saturdays, I trained twice a day because I enjoyed it so much. It was my relief. It was my de-stressor, and I was discouraged, so I just did more of it. If I could help you understand this step-by-step process, do more of it more consistently and review it with people that are a little bit farther ahead than you are. And you're going to find that probably within the 3 to 6 month mark, you're going to end up getting a lot better. If you are not naturally athletic though, it could take you a lot longer, and you're going to have to swallow that hard truth. So to wrap it up, if you guys have any questions, comments, things that you want to know more about in jiu-jitsu, make sure to drop them in the comments below. My hope is to continuously bring more light into what it means to train jiu-jitsu from the very beginning. If you're coming back after missing so many years, trying to continue to stay in the headspace because it is a long journey, feel free to reach out, drop anything down below that you feel like could be helpful. That's what I'm here for. I think that females are starting to get more curious about jiu-jitsu, and I wish that I had had this when I started. And so I think for females coming out, it's helpful. And then also for men starting jiu-jitsu or continuously learning to have to practice with females, it can be a very different dynamic. Sometimes I think guys would find it helpful to be able to see what a female's thinking in jiu-jitsu, how it works, what we're thinking about as we're trying to get better as well, because it is a sport. But the dynamic can vary based on the person, based on the journey, and then especially males and females in general practicing the sport can be completely different. So my hope is to continuously bring stories, tips, tricks, answer any questions that you have, and basically just give you an open book to learn more about this sport, and all of us get better answering one question at a time, kind of growing together, and hopefully being able to just give you guys as much value as possible. So if you haven't already liked and subscribed, make sure to do that. I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya. Also, side note, I did just get back from jiu-jitsu and I did not look like this, but I wanted to have you guys see a less crazy side, because I feel like half of the videos I show, I have my hair disgusting, which is still disgusting, but less, and my makeup is non-existent. And so I am trying my best to find a balance, but just so you know, there will be an attempt for me to have both sides shown, but this was not like this 5 minutes ago. So just a reality check for you.